Hello, welcome to From Within. Today we're going to be talking about what Jonathan Humphreys in his video calls the bastard redhead stepchild of the cello family. Jonathan Humphreys has a great channel, a great video. If you want to check it out, the link's in the description below. First, I want to make a disclaimer and say I'm no expert. I'm not a classically trained musician. I've not been to music school. I've only just learnt how to read music. I've been learning the cello for about 18 months. And I know nothing about musical theory. So what I'm trying to do is basically figure out my way through stuff. And with electric cellos, there's not an awful lot of information out there, certainly not that I can find. So there's a lot of trial and error and experimentation. But if from these videos you get, a little bit of idea of how things sound and what works, what are the pros, what are the cons, then I'll have done what I should. So what is this? This is a cheap, relatively so, electric cello. You can buy them from Amazon. I mean, this specific one is a classic Cantabile CE200 electric cello from Kirstein Music, but they're all pretty much of a muchness. They've got a price of around £350, which is more expensive than a beginner guitar, but compared to acoustic cellos and the more high-end electric cellos, is an absolute steal. I bought this because I live in a block of flats and I wanted to, be able to practice as many hours a day as I wanted without getting evicted. So, this was the ideal solution. It was a low budget. I wasn't sure whether I was going to keep up with the cello, so this was the ideal solution. First impressions, I was really pleased with it. I mean, it looks pretty funky and modern. It's things seem to be in the right place. It's got this nice neck bulge which gets you in the right place for fourth position, and it's a cello. Certainly the shoulder here feels in around about the right sort of position compared to my acoustic cello. On the back it has this little doohickey. It basically has on-off switch, volume control and tone control, and three 3.5mm jack sockets. It takes a 9-volt battery. There's no AC power, so if you're going to be playing it a lot, you're going to be going through the batteries. The tone switch I tend to leave on low because anything higher than about a 2 or a 3 and it sounds really metallic and nasty. The wiring is pretty bad, because some days it sounds fine, some days it buzzes and crackles and makes horrible distortion that you just can't clear up anywhere. Also being, it has no auto off switch, so if you accidentally leave it on, you're going to be, again, burning through your batteries. But there's one thing I've not mentioned that you notice the second you start playing it, and that is this chest piece. What the hell is this? This S-shaped weird doohickey with a cupboard door hinge on it. If you've seen an acoustic cello or the higher end electric cellos, it's curved and it's flat at the back and it sits against your breastbone, which makes it nice and stable. This thing doesn't seem to fit human anatomy. So the second you put it on here, it's twisting to the left. No matter what you do, it goes to the left. Now, normally you would grip your cello with your knees, but because of the way this body is designed, and it's just a pretend body, you can't really do that. So what you can't see with this leg here is I'm up on tiptoe on my left leg, basically pushing with the side of my knee into my other thigh to keep it in position, to stop it pulling left. Now, of course, the other major problem is when you play the cello, you push down with your fingers from the left. So the downward motion exacerbates the problem. It basically, as you play the cello, you are pulling it around to the left. So in order to counter that, you have to push with your thumb to keep it in position as you play. Now, day one of learning cello, you learn that you do not push with your thumb. Your left hand needs to be relaxed. You don't ever push with your thumb. So this instrument, by necessity, teaches you to play in a way that you really shouldn't be playing the cello. not only that, because you're pushing with your thumb, and because your hand is so tense, oh my gosh, your hand cramps up. I mean, I got to the point where I was playing sort of 2 or 3 hours a day, but even then I had to take a break every half an hour because both my wrist and my thumb were really, really aching. So if you're going to play with this, you are going to have to basically, aches and pains come with the territory. You're going to have to put up with that. But one thing you need to watch out for, while this says that it's an ebony fingerboard, they're only telling the truth if they're talking about colour, because it's definitely not ebony wood. You know this because the more you play, the blacker your fingers get. It all comes off on you and it stains and it's nasty. So that's something to watch out for. The bow that comes with it is cheap and cheerful. But what are you going to do? It's a bow, it works, it's functional. That's enough. So most importantly, what does it sound like? This is what it sounds like from a 3.5mm output into a 1/4" input on a Focusrite Scarlett USB audio interface. So this is no effects with the tone down on low. I'll leave you to decide what you think of that. Not brilliant, but it's not bad. Now I'll turn up the tone and you can hear what it sounds like then. So normally you would play an electric cello through a bass amp. I don't actually have a bass amp, but plugging this actually into my my Fender 15-watt guitar amp, it actually sounds much better, which is an oddity because normally you need a bass amp for the lower frequencies from this sort of instrument. So this is with the EQ knobs in the middle and with a bit of reverb. It sounds actually much better than when it's just on its own. You can also fiddle around with all the settings, add some gain, and you can actually make it sound pretty fun, kind of like an electric guitar. Overall impressions, it is what it is. You're not paying a lot of money, so you're not really getting a top of the range instrument. You can have a lot of fun with it. I mean, providing you've got extra equipment. I mean, this one I upgraded almost immediately with extra set of strings, D'Addario strings, and certainly that improved the tone. I would definitely recommend maybe getting a better bow. Yeah, and everything feels slightly in the wrong place. I mean, the angles are all a bit off, and certainly the distances between you with this horrible chess piece can make it quite complex to play. But other than that, you know, you could do worse, I suppose. It is a cello at the end of the day. But can you learn on it as a beginner cellist? That's the million-dollar question. Well, certainly it teaches you bad technique. And I found that jumping from this onto my acoustic cello was very difficult because, as I say, everything's in a kind of different angle, different position, and this just doesn't feel like a cello when you're playing it. That said, beggars can't be choosers, and it certainly helped me learn my fingering for first position, and you know, I got up to grade 2 using this, but once you start shifting, once you start extensions, you're really going to be wanting to get a different cello. So it's good. It's certainly not as your only instrument to learn on. I think I was already learning on the acoustics, so using this to, you know, really nail in the finger positions was useful. But it's definitely not going to be your only instrument, because it is going to teach you a horrible, horrible way to play the cello. And like I said, it's painful to play. It teaches you bad technique. There's a lot of buzzing. You know, the lack of a 1/4-inch jack means that the output is kind of horrible. There's an awful lot wrong with it. The quality of the sound, I mean, it could be better. It could be better. On the other hand, if you're on a budget, you've got neighbours, and you know you want to practice. If you're not sure whether you want to keep up with the cello, so you just want to, you know, not spend a lot of money, you want to try it out and just get some idea of whether you want to stick with the cello or not, then, you know, you can certainly, you know, it's certainly helpful for that. As soon as you get this, what you really want to be thinking about doing is upgrading the strings, upgrading the bow. Maybe if you know anything about electronics, rewiring this thing at the back. And if you have a friend into woodworking, maybe do something here, because this is, you know, this is the deal breaker of the whole instrument. So taken against itself, and for the price point, and you know, it never professes to be a high quality instrument, I'd give this 3 stars out of 5. However, taken against other cellos and the whole cello family, this is half a star out of 5. You know, it's a cello. It mimics some of, you know, the way that you play cello, but this is not an instrument that you are going to keep your whole life. This is an instrument that you're going to buy and decide whether you want to play cello. If not, you're going to get rid of it. If you do want to play the cello, you're not going to keep this. You're very quickly going to be moving on to something different, something that you can actually play without crippling yourself, and something that will get you up to those higher grades, because this is not going to do it. So that's my review. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.